believe me, you can look at my channel now and think I'm doing okay. I remember I started posting videos on Facebook first in about 2015. Yeah,
Okay.
that's when I very first started. I was posting about 2015. First, I just started posting with my family and friends. Crickets, literally crickets. No one cared. Maybe one like from my aunt in America because she was proud of me and she hadn't seen me in some years. Nobody cared at all, and that went on for about 2.5 years. But I still kept putting them out there because I was enjoying it. And then even on YouTube, it took a good 3 years for me to get anywhere on YouTube, I would say.
So did you start because this was gonna be one of the questions I was gonna ask you actually. So right, so you started with the Facebook. How long after that did you set up the YouTube?
I think I set up the YouTube. I set up YouTube in about probably 2015 as well.
Right.
And at the time I was just posting metal stuff actually because I used to. Well, I still am massively into metal. I've seen Metallica as well, by the way, at Wembley Stadium. And yes, you're right. It just blows your mind.
Yeah, I would just cut in there as well because I find this really interesting. I started out in metal, like playing in metal bands, right? And then somewhere in like 2013, when I sort of stopped being in bands and I was sort of forced to do acoustic, suddenly it was like acoustic from there on. And then ever since then, it's been acoustic, indie, experimental, all this other stuff. And I still love metal as well, but it's like such an interesting transition. It's like so...
It is. I think for me, it was because I started learning guitar in like the 90s. And funny enough, one of the first albums that I started to learn, well, the first tab book I got was Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was bought for me as a Christmas present, so I just started learning it because it's the only thing I had. I didn't know about Ultimate Guitar or whatever back then. I was just my dad gave me a guitar.
Were the tabs correct? Because I find like a lot of tab books are incorrect.
Oh, looking back, probably not. No, probably not. Although this was an official one, though. This was an official one.
Oh, okay, all right.
But
well, apparently sometimes even the official ones aren't correct. Like we're talking about Metallica. Probably, apparently some of the bass tabs are wrong for Metallica ones and stuff.
See, back then, I wish I had a little smartphone because I could listen back to what I was playing and see. I mean, at the time, I thought I was doing all right, but maybe looking back, they were completely wrong. But yeah, so yeah, for me, I started progressing, and then my friend showed me it was in the late 90s when Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, all these bands were around, and my mate showed me that. What song was it he played? Last Resort. Do you remember Last Resort by Papa Roach?
Cut my life into pieces.
Yeah, well, my friend could play that riff. And I was like, whoa. Like, at that time, I was only just learning chords. So it blew my mind. And then from that point, I was like, okay, let me try and do that. And then I listened to them. And then, I went to college, did a music course there. And the teacher played Unbroken by Pantera one day.
Okay, yeah.
That was part of our music lesson because he was a metalhead. I heard that.
You're so lucky.
Right, how do I do that? So I started doing that. And then, I went on to, and then Killswitch Engage were getting big at the time, and Machine Head. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? And it just, because you're trying to learn an instrument, it gets progressively harder and harder and harder. And I think that's why I went down that route. But I mean, I love the music, obviously, it's insane. But I think I've forgotten the question now. What was I even trying to answer there?
That's fine. We'll get back to that. Although I will say that, like, I'm very jealous of your music education at school because mine was nothing like that. Like, I was growing up on metal and rock and all of that stuff. But like my music lessons, I went in there thinking like, oh, this would be great. I love music. I'll get to learn and all this stuff. And it was literally just fucking keyboards for 3 years. And like very little, like mostly theory, really like music theory, but not like interesting music theory where you learn something. It was like, I don't know, connecting like Indian classical music and like the history of it, and which is fine. It was like initially interesting, but then it got like really boring because we would never experiment or do anything other than that. And then occasionally you'd have like that lesson where everyone sits in a circle and just like hit some fucking, I don't know, toms or whatever,
Oh yeah, yeah.
African drums and shit.
No, do you know what? My music education at school was probably like that, but for some reason, I went to college and decided that I wanted to do a music course.
Oh,
So I did something
okay.
called,
Sorry, I've misunderstood
yeah.
that.
So I did something called access to music, and it was called
Oh.
contemporary popular music was the name of the course. I don't know why I decided to do that, but I did.
Hey, it makes perfect sense if you're into music to do a music course.
I don't even think at that time, I was just a basic guitar player. I don't know. I love music, but I don't know why I thought I could do it. But I did an audition and I got in. And then I had to play a song in front of like the guy, actually, the same guy. And I just played some little jazz thing I'd learned on this DVD. And I got in. And then from there, it just went, you know, like, it just, everything built from there, I think. It's funny looking back at it, actually.